A while back, I bought a Canon M50. I bought it to help create videos since a lot of the events I capture are live and I have one shot to get it right. The M50's dual pixel autofocus is the main reason I use it. It's worked well for me in tough shooting situations and has proven itself to be reliable and consistent on many difficult jobs. You have the best of both worlds with respect to lenses with the M50. You can use native EF-M lenses, or you can buy an adapter from Canon or Viltrox to use Canon EF lenses. So what about the lenses made for Canon mirrorless cameras, such as the M50? They're called EF-M lenses. An M50 comes with a 15 to 45mm f4 kit lens, which, like most kit lenses, feels pretty cheaply constructed. The lens is completely plastic, and with a max aperture of f4, there's issues in low light. That being said, I like this lens and use it. The autofocus is silent, which is a big plus. I also bought a 55 to 200mm zoom lens when I bought the M50. It's cheap, but it actually works really well. That being said, I really wanted to move up with respect to lenses for the M50, and there's two lenses that I really like to use. First is the 32mm f1.4 lens, which many consider to be the best M series lens Canon makes, and the 22mm f2 lens. These are fixed focal length lenses that are, in most cases, of better optical quality than zoom lenses. Why? Well, there's less glass and the glass doesn't move, resulting in a better overall image. But isn't it more difficult to compose shots with fixed focal length lenses? Yes and no. Yes, you're limited by the focal length, but that constraint, at least for me, forces me to think about the shots I'm composing. You really need to physically move to alter what's in the viewfinder. This act of physically moving to get what you want, again, at least for me, results in a better shot. Also, there's the consistency factor of shooting with a fixed focal point lens. Once you get used to it, you understand what the lens can do, and maybe more importantly, what it can't do. This really helps create better shots. We'll start with the 22mm. As you can see, it's very small and flat. The Canon M50 contains a crop sensor, so that means that we need to multiply a lens's focal length by 1.6 to get the true focal length. For the 22mm, the true focal length rounded off is 35mm. For close-ups, the 22mm will focus accurately around 6 inches. The lens says 0.49 feet. This isn't a macro lens by any means. The 22mm is fast and is pretty quiet when using autofocus. This is really important when you're recording in-camera audio. So here's some shots taken with a 22mm. I'm shooting at a small community-maintained nature walk near where I live, and I'm shooting in aperture priority mode. The white balance was set to auto and the ISO was set to 200. I shot in RAW mode and then pulled the images into Lightroom and really didn't do any processing, just converted them to JPEGs. I like the little 22mm pancake lens. For such a tiny lens, it does a really good job and fits really well in the M50. And I also like the reasonably wide field of view that the lens provides. The 22mm lens is pretty reasonably priced at $229. So now let's take a look at the 32mm f1.4 lens. I read a lot about this lens, saw a lot of YouTube videos, and decided to pick one up. It's new to me, and I've just tried it out, but I really like it. It runs $479, which is a lot more than the 22mm, but you get a lot more with this lens. It's now become my favorite lens and my go-to lens for my M50. I shot with a 32mm at the same location I shot with a 22mm, just so you can see what the outcome looks like with both lenses. For exposure, I tended to stay on the more wide open end, shooting from f1.4 on up. The 32mm lens translates to a true focal length of about 51mm. So here are the shots with the 32mm lens. Just as an aside, look how fast the bee's wings are flapping, and this was shot at 1/1000th of a second. As you can see, this lens performs really well wide open at f1.4. At f1.4, the focal plane is very shallow, so you got to be really careful about picking your subject, but take a little time, get a good subject, and have a beautiful blurry background. Here's an example of how sensitive the focal plane is when you're shooting at f1.4. I focused on the middle of the rotting tree trunk, and you can see the top is blurry and the bottom is blurry. You can really use this property to your advantage when you want to communicate something and isolate something in your images. You can't go wrong with either one of these lenses, the 32mm f1.4 or the 22mm f2.0 M series lens. The 32mm M series lens edges out the 22mm, and you would expect that since it's a lot more expensive. I first started with the 22mm and was very happy with that for the cost, so I decided to take the plunge to the 32mm, and I'm really happy I did. So in an upcoming video, we'll check out how these lenses perform shooting video. So as always, this is Jeff. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.